Welcome to the One Stories podcast. Today you'll get to hear Sharon Slack's One Story. But before we do that, let's learn a little bit about Sharon. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
So, hey, let's just jump right in. I want you to introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So my name is Sharon Slack. I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a health and wellness strategist and a speaker. And, I really work with women that have basically been dismissed by doctors. They've told there's nothing else that they can do for them and they don't know where to turn next. So I really help them find a more holistic way to get to the root cause of whatever problem they are with their physical wellness, mental wellness, things like that.
And the more I talk to women, I'm finding this is a bigger problem than I even realized about self-advocacy and getting heard and being seen. So yeah, I'm
Yes.
I'm excited about your One Story because it's emotional. It's so good.
Thank
Um,
you.
so let me ask you this. So
Mhm.
can you share how your personal health crisis and feeling left became a turning point in your life career?
Yes, so my journey took a pivotal moment. So, despite my background as a nurse, I faced this huge health crisis, and traditional medicine really couldn't solve it. And so, going from doctor to doctor, trying this pill, that pill, was very frustrating. And the longer it goes on without seeing results, you start feeling more and more alone. And so, after 6 months of seeking answers and only being offered the pharmaceuticals without even really addressing the root cause, I was finally told that there was nothing else that they could do for me. And so that was a really pivotal moment for not only myself, but just our family. And I really realized the limitation of conventional approaches. And so for me, it really shined a light on the profound importance of holistic health and extending beyond not necessarily what we only put in our bodies, but what we put on our bodies, around our bodies. And so for me, it really propelled me to transition from traditional nursing to completely dedicating my career to guiding other people through similar challenges and really focusing on comprehensive wellness strategies for them.
Wow. I love that you do that because it stems from your own personal journey. And so I think we always tend to help the like a former version of ourselves, you know? So I think it's so impactful that when people like you do this. So can you tell me what are some of the common challenges that you see women facing like in their health journey? And then how do you help them overcome these?
So I encounter women grappling with things like slow metabolism. As we age, that's one huge one for us women. Gut health imbalances, honestly, is a huge one. And another huge one that a lot of people can relate to is mental burnout because we prioritize other people over themselves. And so honestly, those are huge, two big or three big ones. And so each client's journey is really unique. That's why I really take a personalized approach. I emphasize a comprehensive evaluation, not only on what they put in their body, but like I said before, on everything around them, what they put around their body, on their body, things like that. And we really do a deep dive intensive in their overall wellness so we can together collaboratively develop a tailored action plan that really addresses physical wellness, mental wellness, and a plan that ensures a sustainable improvement, not just a band-aid.
Right. And you said something that really caught my attention is as women, we tend to, like you said, put our own health and well-being and mental health on the back burners, yet we still come out fighting for all the people that we love. I wonder kind of why this is. Is it just that we're natural caregivers? Why do you think that is?
I do think that. I think that it's deeply ingrained in us to put others above ourselves because we don't like to see others hurting, right? And it's, for us, at least for me, I'm always like, I don't care if I'm getting anything out of it. What can I do for that person? Even when you see a stranger at the store, that is struggling carrying groceries, how many other people do you say, oh, can I carry that for you? You know what I mean? It's just something that's
Yeah.
deeply ingrained. So when it's our family and our friends, so people that we have a true loving connection with, we
Hmm.
absolutely sacrifice ourselves and fill everybody else's cup up before we fill ours. And sometimes we take that to the point where then our cup is completely cracked and broken and there's just nothing else left to pour from.
And I feel like there's like a baseline. There's like a baseline caring and nurturing that we all have, but then add like childhood trauma in there and add other, traumatic things that happen to us. And I think then we become really people pleasers, which adds on to what we call nurturing, which really is a form of people pleasing, I think,
Yes.
where we take it to the extreme. I mean, do you kind of see this in some of your clients where they kind of take it to the extreme because of their past history?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Even with myself and my one story,
Yeah.
because of things that happened growing up, absolutely. It's just a mechanism where, whether they went through a childhood divorce or any kind of trauma, it's just that coping mechanism. Okay, if I can help that person, then I might forget about this or that. You know what I'm saying? And a
Yeah.
lot of times when we have that trauma, people just don't realize that it's really stuck with you in more
Yeah.
ways than one. And then as we get older, there are different situations that bleed out, and you don't even realize you thought maybe you were over that, whatever that trauma was. And so, with my approaches, that's one thing that my clients really appreciate is that, it's not like, okay, what do you just put in your body? I take a really deep dive and I look at some of that stuff from how they grew up, talking about their love language. Honestly, knowing somebody's love language is a huge way to just incorporate them moving in the right direction. And it honestly is mind blowing when you combine everything together in one piece to find a right strategy for them. That makes sense.
It does. And I love the holistic approach where it is all like it's kind of a study of one, a holistic approach. Like you take each individual client from what I'm gleaning that you're saying is like everyone for who they are in particular and not one
Yes.
plan. It's not a one plan fits all.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So can you tell me about maybe a time that you made a significant impact on someone's wellness journey?
Yeah, it's always rewarding helping people find solutions, especially when nothing else has worked. And, I had a client tell me, and I mean, she was honest. She was like, I'm telling you, I have not been able to lose 1 pound in 5 years. I have done everything. I've done this pill, that drink, this diet, everything the doctors have told me. And, I said, well, let's dig in. And again, we took that whole approach. And then you find out, oh my gosh, I eat it a certain way because of something that happened when I was a kid. Or, this stressor in my current life right now is affecting this or that. And honestly, it's amazing to see when you really address stuff like that and obviously what you put in your body and things along that way. But seeing her lose her first 15 pounds was awesome. And I mean, glowing. And and she's losing more and lost more. But just, I mean, I'm telling you that first 15 pounds, even honestly, the first 5 pounds. I mean, she was like, I can't even believe this. And I'm like, I know, but I believed it. I knew it would happen. And then just seeing her start in that journey, and then it's like each couple weeks there's more weight loss, and just the mental clarity coming just out of that. Like it was just a whole package. So that was honestly a really, really huge one for me, seeing somebody transform like that when they really are like, I'm giving up. I'm always going to be like this. There's no cure. There's nothing works. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And I hope everyone heard in your voice, like you and I speak the same language. We are criers. We are very emotional. But the fact that you got emotional just talking about your client's journey, oh, like that gets me because it just shows how much like you care and how much you put into this for and their success is your success. And I
yes,
find that so important. 'Cause sometimes it can feel like people who are trying to help you are just, they're not as in it as you are. And I feel like you really are in it with your clients. It
yes,
comes
yes,
out.
I am. Yes, and sometimes people say it's to a fault, right? Like, man, I think you want it more than they want it, or you know what I mean? Like, But I'm telling you, I do because it's like when I've had people that I've been able to get off like statin meds or things like that, and it's like when you're able to do that, you just know the possibility, and it's like I'm telling you, you could have such a better life, and then seeing them do that journey is just, I mean, it's priceless. So
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of unlock that in them, things that they maybe hadn't considered. And And I get
Hmm.
it. I was at that point too. Like through COVID, I gained so much weight. Part of it was depression. My mom had passed early February, right before everything locked down. And then the pandemic happened and my speaking gigs went away. And it was like one thing after the other. And I just felt
Hmm.
like, yeah, I didn't care. I
Yep.
was elbow deep in a box of Twinkies like once a week,
Yes.
and I just kept gaining. And then I got to that point where you just feel like you cannot lose even an ounce. It didn't matter, felt like no matter what the things that used to work for me
Yes.
work anymore.
Hmm.
So you get to that point where you're like, okay, well then screw it. I guess this is just how things are. So to have somebody like you in their corner,
Yeah.
man, that just has to feel so good. I mean, for and obviously for you, but for your clients, like you said, that first pound, the first 5 pounds, 15 pounds, like that's a huge feat when you've been stuck,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Forward
Yes.
movement, man. Oof.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure.
And obviously, you know that, and I can't wait. So, up next is going to be Sharon's one story, and you're going to hear why this is so important to her and where she was in her personal journey, and why helping clients like the one she just talked about was so pivotal. And again, you're going to hear why. And I love this because, you did feel left by the medical community, and I feel like you're helping your clients because they were also left by the medical community and the people that should have been helping them.
Yes. Yes. I think that's the biggest thing is, I mean, I honestly felt alone. Like I was told there was nothing else they could do and plan your funeral and make sure you got like your life insurance in order. And, for somebody that is young, that's not something you want to hear. And it's just unfortunate. And so being able to be somebody that can be in somebody's corner and tell them, you know what, I'm not going to leave you. I'm never going to leave you. And I'm going to help you get through this. Like that's a game changer right there.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. And so if you're listening to this episode, please double check and go into the show notes as well. You can find links there to follow Sharon, connect with her, maybe even schedule time to sit and chat with her because maybe this is exactly what you needed to hear. So stay tuned. Up next is Sharon Slack's Wet Story. Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Everything changed when the doctor said there was nothing else that they could do for me. So I was left. I was left by the medical community and dismissed by doctors. I was left with more questions than answers. I was left to figure it out on my own. I was left with no hope. And I was left to die. Have you ever been left? You may have been left in so many different ways. You may have been left by parents. You may have been left by family, left by adults in authority, left by friends, left by teachers, left by spouses. Fill in the blank. I'm going to take you back to times in my life where I was constantly being left in more ways than one. In the quiet of the night, a tragedy unfolded that would forever mark my life's journey. My twin sister, Shannon, passed away in the crib laying next to me at just 3 weeks old. And I was left, not just physically, but left with the unknown of what could have been. I was left with a hole in my heart that honestly has never quite been filled throughout my entire life. Now, growing up, my childhood was a battlefield, not a sanctuary. My parents got a divorce when I was in middle school, and it really wasn't a surprise with all of the conflict, the fighting, and just the chaos. So, after the divorce, a moment in time that echoed the violence to its peak. My mother, in a fit of anger, aimed a gun at my father during a custody exchange, and the echoes of not only my voice, but the voice of my siblings begging her to stop will forever be etched in my memory, and it has left unimaginable scars. And because back then, they thought it was a really good idea to let children testify in court, even if you were young. I was completely left in that courtroom. I had a decision to make. If I told the truth and I kept my father out of jail, that meant further wrath from my mother. So I was left on the tightrope, balancing truth versus safety. No burden a child should ever have to bear. And now this leads me into my teenage years, where an unspeakable act happened behind closed doors. And man, I was left. I was left feeling the shame and the guilt, and honestly left with questions like, man, did that really just happen? How did that happen? And then I was left having to walk around holding it in because I was too scared to tell anybody. And then when I finally broke open and told my story, man, was I left with some major shame, because there were people in my life, some of my closest people, that didn't quite believe me. And that takes me into adulthood. As a young adult, I had to make a choice. I had to choose to leave an abusive relationship. He not only promised to end our relationship, he promised he would end my very existence. And that night, I was left laying awake in bed the entire night, praying to God that he would not wake up and finish what he started. I was left laying in bed trying to plan my next move. I was left with a choice. And thank God I made the choice. And I grabbed every ounce of strength I had. And I walked out that door, and I never looked back. Now, years later, one of the most gut-wrenching times in my life where I was left really should have been a time of joy, anticipation. I had just received word that I had got a really good, high-paying management position. And of course, I thought it was because they saw all the opportunity in me, right? Now, during the interview, they ask you all these questions. And there was a question that said, ding, ding. You'd think that that's what it said, but not me. I was naive and young. So, are you done having children? And I was like, what? And he's like, it's okay. It's just a routine question. And so, of course, I'm young and naive, and I'm like, all right, great. But because of that, I didn't see the red flag hitting me in the face. So then, when I got the amazing news that I was pregnant, something that took me a long time to get, I was so excited to tell my boss. I finally didn't lose a baby, and I finally was pregnant. And it was met with a cold expression and dead silence. And after about 2 minutes of that, only one question followed. So when's it due? It? I mean, has your child ever been called it? I mean, this was a time of joy and celebration, anticipation. And I had to realize that the life of my child was less important than the bottom line because it clashed with this company's busiest time of the year. And man, was I left At 6 months pregnant, I lost my job. And I had to try to figure out health insurance. Remember, I'm 6 months pregnant. How am I going to pay bills? Okay, you know what? I got this. I'll get a job. I was terrified of interviews. I got the interviews. That wasn't the problem because on paper, I looked great. The problem is I knew that when I walked into that room and they saw that jelly belly, I had no chance. And that was the truth. And nobody would hire me. And thankfully, God always has a plan, right? And that literally led me into my nursing career. And I would never change any of that. Then years later, I had to navigate the stormy waters of a divorce. After 15 years of marriage, I was left with questions. I was left having to figure out single motherhood. I was left trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to raise these kids and how do I want to raise these kids? Left to figure out the strength that I had inside of me and left to relearn to love myself. And all of this brings me to the most important part in my life where I was left by the medical community. It was 2020. Everybody knows what that was, right? COVID. Okay. And at the time, I was a night shift nurse, and it worked great for our family because I could work all night and I could sleep all day while the kiddos were in school. Then COVID hit. So now I'm working all night, driving 1 hour home, and then staying awake all day long, helping the kids with school, and then just repeating that cycle, right? Burning the candle at both ends. And I'm sure, like everybody in the world, eating like garbage, drinking like garbage, exercising like garbage. Being on the front line in nursing, I was stressed to the max. So by September, I had nothing left in me, guys. I went for a routine checkup, and I went home that night, went to bed with a flat stomach. And when I woke up the next morning, I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. Now, of course, I looked down and I knew, okay, I had not slept for 6 months and magically woke up pregnant, right? But it was right out to here. You could put a full place setting on my belly. Hard. I was nauseous. I couldn't eat. I was in tons of pain. Called up the doctor, said, I realized you saw me yesterday, but I look like I'm pregnant. What? Come on in. And that was my journey of starting to be poked and prodded like a lab rat. This test, that test. Some doctors were great. And then other doctors made me feel alone. And to be honest, like a disease that nobody wanted to talk about. One doctor, after tons of testing, and we'd already ruled out some things, looked at me and said, yeah, it's nothing. Okay, I'm a nurse, buddy, right? I've gone through the checklist. Now, thankfully, they were able to narrow it down. They said, okay, Sharon, it's not feces. It's not fluid. It's not air. It's not a tumor. They're like, your organs are so inflamed. There's literally like no room for them. Okay, so now what? Well, okay, the goal is going to be to get the inflammation out of your body. Okay. So I did everything they told me, right? I took this pill. I took that pill. I took this drink. I took these drops. I did the FODMAP diet. I did it all. And for 6 solid months, I looked like this every single day. Hard rock belly, going into the grocery store, doing the waddle because you're pregnant, and having people say, oh, when's the baby due? Super awesome. And then after 6 months, they sat me down and said, Sharon, I don't know how to tell you this. There's nothing else we can do for you. And I was left with more questions than answers, and left to figure it out on my own, and left with no hope. And I was left to die. Now, thankfully, I did find a solution, because I had done so much life review, like so many of my hospice patients had done in the past. I started thinking about all of the times in my life that I had been left. And I'm like, you know what? You know what, Sharon? Everybody in this world has left you. You are not going to leave you. And I made the decision to fight and do whatever it took. And so I stand before you, not just recovered, but thriving, guys. I stand here to show you that there is hope and you could do anything. I'm going to tell you a story that some of you might have heard called the starfish story. A man was walking down the beach and he looks down and he sees kind of a figure, looks like it's dancing. And as he gets closer, he realizes it's a little boy. And he's bending down and picking something up and throwing it into the ocean. And he gets there and he says, "Good morning. Why are you throwing all those starfish in the ocean?" And the boy says, "Well, the sun's out and the tide's going out. And if I don't do this, they're all going to die." And the guy just laughs at him. He's like, "Okay, you realize there are miles and miles of starfish on this beach, right? You can't possibly make a difference." And the little boy listened politely, and he bent down, and he picked up another starfish, and he tossed it out into the ocean. And he looked at that man with a big smile on his face. It made a difference to that one. And guys, all of these stories, all of these chapters in my life where I've been left, I was shown despair, but also resilience. I'm here to tell you that no matter what, no matter how many times the world has tried to leave you behind, like that starfish, I'm here to show you that you can make a difference and you can change. No matter how many times this world has said to you, "Sorry, there is nothing else we can do for you," and they've left you, you can reclaim your wellness. And it might be physical wellness, it might be mental wellness. No matter what it is, you can do it. I believe in you. I know that you've got it in you. Because you know what? This world needs the exact kind of beautiful that only you can offer it. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. Just like that starfish story, I want you to go out and I want you to make a difference to one person, because it's worth it. And I want you to start with yourself. Thank you.
Your story matters.